would say for sure, like my experience overall at SLUH was just beneficial. Like it was something that I needed in terms of like just diversifying myself around things that I've never been used to, just due to the fact of me like going to public schools, going to schools and elementary schools that are predominantly Black, and living in one of like the dangerous neighborhoods in St. Louis. Um, it was very beneficial for me. Like I needed that. Like I needed that to like for one like let go of like the burdens and the environmental like stress, and also just to like grow mentally, like physically, if you want to talk about sports wise, um, just and spiritually in a way, like at this point in time, I probably won't take like spiritual or like different religions seriously, but I do see the power in some of the practices. So overall, it was a beneficial feeling for me, and just networking and just meeting new people. So it was very much needed, and I just don't I just don't think that I have to speak for like our people, or just the Black community. I just feel like one second. Um I just feel like I don't really think I have to speak for our community in terms of like I just know it's needed. I know it's very, very needed. I think that's very essential to who I am and like where I come from. Like it's just naturally me, and so I don't feel the burden of just like me individually speaking for our community. I just think that like I'm part of that. Like you have like it's kind of you have to, but like I want to. So part of it like I never experienced that SLUH like probably like people like touching my hair or like I mean they probably won't ask like certain questions, but they you can just tell in general that they're curious about something or the way you live or where you come from or do you do this or are you that type of Black person. So yeah, just all of those. I mean that's just kind of happens, but I come at it with a calm, cool, and collective manner and very enthusiastic way, so I don't come off like in a way that I can like probably damage the view and just the Black community. So just in general, I guess I just feel like that's just part of me because there's no way of changing anything. Is first if we don't have conversations, and for sure if we don't take action in terms of like probably like successful protests and just you know that are very non-violent but have a clear message. So yeah, I would say that.
Thank you. It's part for you going to SLUH.
I would say just like, just adapting because like public school and a predominantly white, I mean not white, but Black public school, it's you consider it as like easy only due to the fact that it's like overall, I'm not gonna say all teachers, but overall, you can tell and you can see a pattern of like some teachers don't really care or they don't feel that they can do anything or fix this, or they just give you the work and then that's it, or they just pull some work from like online. You can just kind of cruise through it, or you don't even have to do it, and they'll just pass you. So I was just talking about my cousin. So just yeah, it's it was just me for real, just like adapting and just finding my place, because it seems like all the time I have to like say something in terms of like, oh, okay, so are you okay, or do you need anything, or you need this, or do you need that? Like I some majority of the time, if I ask like if I ask that I need something, then I do. I probably need school support. But other than that, like sometimes it seemed like it was kind of like a push, like or forcing me to you forcing me to say that I need something. So sometimes it seems like, okay, just because I'm black, that means I need something. So other than that, yeah, that sometimes happened, but it was rarely, but that happened. But yeah, I would say just finding my place, and just adapting.
So this is going to be all juniors. What advice do you have for them? Just in general, it could be about this particular topic, or it could just be something in general. What advice do you have for them as they get going on their senior year?
The advice I would give the juniors, like as they become seniors and just go on get ready for college, I would just say like my big word is that like just diversify yourself. That doesn't mean you have to do things or force relationships or do things that you usually don't do. Just gain and diversify and just gain or like educate yourself on a certain topic. Talk to that certain person. Y'all don't have to be friends forever. We just like, hey, can I have a conversation with you about a certain thing? I don't want to come off mean or anything. And it doesn't even have to be like a black person. It could be an Asian person or any other race or just any situation, any topic. So I would just say for sure that word just diversify. Just diversify yourself and be open, and that will ultimately help you be, as we would say, open to growth. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. What else? Anything else you got on your heart and your mind before you got to go?
Love.
Love.
That word love.
What's that mean
That's
to
all I
you?
got. It's hard, but I guess part of it is probably due to time. So I've understood and I've tried to gain, knowledge and just feeling off that word love. But part of it is time. So I see and I find, some love within SLUH, in certain situations and just me being there. So through that time, I found some love. So yeah, love.
Thank you.
I came from Ferguson Middle School,
Mhm.
which isn't very isn't too academic, and it's kind of not too good of a school. Like the faculty isn't too good. You really gotta you gotta step up if you go to that school if you want an actual education. And
What's it like racially? What's the racial makeup?
it's mainly African American. Like there was one or two kids that rode my bus that were Caucasian, or yeah, it was pretty predominantly black.
Okay.
And it's also a public school, so going from there to here was a very night and day transition. And another thing that made it kind of hard is that I was the only kid from that school, and I think from that district, who came to SLUH. And it was sort of like I felt lost, and I struggled to find my group of friends and find where I fit in, because there just wasn't too much of that I saw from my old school.
And
Well, for me personally, it catches me off guard for the most part. So like when it does happen, I just kind of sit there and like think about it. Like, how is this really happening to me right now? Like, is this, I don't know, it's just something that I'm not used to at all and should not be used to. So it just catches me off guard, and I just find myself thinking about it for the rest of the day.
now, in some examples that people talked about already, or maybe like people touching your hair without asking, or can you give some more examples from your experience or what you've observed, or what, like, so maybe some of my students are still confused, like they don't even know what a microaggression is. Could you give some more examples?
So One would be like imitating African American vernacular, or maybe like trying to say something in an accent that is just completely like it's not funny, and people may do it as a joke, but it just it's wrong because uh, it's hard to explain. But another one actually that I experienced, and I wrote about this one in my essay, is in Spanish class, we had to go up there and do introductions every day. And my teacher called on this one kid, and he went up there, and he said, I would like to go to Africa because Gio was from there. And I just, that caught me really off guard. And I thought it was kind of disrespectful.
Yes. So how do you, so you process it, you think about it. So how do you handle it, or how do you feel like you just have to stuff it, or what's been your strategy to deal with or cope with those microaggressions?
For the most part, to turn the other cheek and forgive and not forget, but to work towards a better future so that this doesn't happen to other people. I would say just finding a group of friends with similar morals and ideas, and I feel like there's no other way to, do that.
And how about any words of wisdom or advice for these juniors?
I would say that if they don't feel comfortable where they are now, then try and change something.
Any so change something within themselves, or change something outside of themselves, or both?
Both, whether it be.
Okay, all right.
Well, in my experience at SLUH, I think like a lot of the races is, well, it's different from every person, but a lot of times I think it's like quiet racism, or like stuff that's said in like friend groups, or that you can hear when you walk down the hallway, or like what we call microaggressions, which happens to a lot of people. Like
Can you say what a microaggression is?
it's basically like, I would call it mostly ignorance that is of racism. So an experience of
Is it something that somebody says or does or doesn't do, or what is a microaggression?
Yeah, it could be something that someone says or does, or like if they don't know, then I wouldn't say that's a microaggression, but it builds up over time. And like freshman year, I had hair, and then I cut it off. And then a lot of times I would say, like, people would touch my hair and stuff. And that's a microaggression. Just one, I just feel like that's personal space. Like, you shouldn't be doing that to people, especially now. But and another experience I had freshman year was, I wasn't at school when it happened, but I remember talking about it after. People put up signs that said it's like all over school, that it said it's okay to be white.
And did people talk to you about the signs? Like, what did you think about it, or where did the conversation go like in your freshman year about that?
Well, I remember like the morning of, because Mr. Kavarg was my homeroom teacher, and he was furious that morning because of that. And I think we talked about it at ACES that week. It was basically, what I thought of it was, it's basically like a reaction to the Black Lives Matter movement,
Hmm.
and I guess they were basically saying, you know, white lives matter in a way.
Mhm.
So, my grade school, even though it was a Catholic school, was majority African American. So coming to SLUH it was a different, and it was an opposite experience. Um, when I came to SLUH, I was really outgoing. You know, I talked to everybody, I made jokes with everybody, and you know that I was really like an outgoing person. I was a big extrovert, still am. You know, so I used to go to all the football games. I remember one of my first, you know, kind of negative experiences, similar to what Cameron was just talking about. Um, you know, somebody walked up to me, a girl from another school. She walked up to me. She grabbed my hair. She just, you know, ran her hands through my hair, and she said, "Oh, yo, are those waves?" I didn't have waves. I had a box back then, but it was just, you know, frightening to me. Somebody had come up to me. They had, you know, touched me, and they, in a way that I did not approve of at the time, obviously. And you know, it was weird to be kind of trivialized in that way. And that's an example of a microaggression. And just to clarify, a microaggression is any sort of action or mannerism or lack of action that kind of makes clear these racial boundaries, enforces a racial stereotype, or simply causes somebody some sort of discomfort, usually because of some sort of minority that they happen to be. So it can be usually microaggressions are something that you do that you aren't conscious of. So that's a thing to note. So it's not like people are going around and doing microaggressions on purpose. At least we hope not. Yeah. And then another thing that I would like to note is it's not just things that happen to me personally that affect me, you know, in my time here at SLUH. It's a lot of the things that I'll hear that happen to my classmates of color. You know, one of the more recent things, and you know, the more appalling things. An underclassman was working at you know, he's also an admissions ambassador. He was working at one of the events. He held the door for somebody, you know, hey, welcome to SLUH, all that. And the woman said to him, you know, I don't talk to blacks. You know, that blatant racism. Um, you know, that you hearing those type of stories over and over again, that eventually you start to get kind of jaded, you know, when that's so you know you get it gets tiring, you know, so to speak.
Yeah. So I would imagine when you experience a microaggression or someone that you know experienced a microaggression, probably the way that the microaggression affects you or the other person is different. But it sounds like to me that what you're both saying is that microaggressions kind of like shock you or wear you out or wear you down. Is that kind of like what an experience of microaggression is? And is it also something that it's kind of like cumulative, like it just kind of keeps on adding one on top of the other and it just starts to kind of like weigh you down? Is that what it's like to an experience of microaggression? Am I kind of, is that name it for you? Is it something different?
No, that's exactly it. You know, it kind of creates this cumulative, like you said, weight on your soul, you know, when it's happening constantly all the time to you and people around you.
Cam, any
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, like it builds up over time and it just keeps happening. But you know, you can't like lose your mind over it because most of the time people doing that are like ignorant about racial boundaries or just don't know about like certain things, and you have to teach those people about it.
And Cam, you didn't talk much about your previous school. What was it like transitioning for you to SLUH High? Is SLUH High kind of the same racial makeup that you came from, or is it really different, or what's it been like for you?
It was different. Me and Ocean went to the same grade school actually. So
Okay, there you go. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay. And what's been the way that both of you have kind of decided to cope with this change or shift in culture coming to SLU, or the microaggressions? Like, what's been your approach? Do you feel like that's just part of the package and you're just going to have to deal with it? Or do you talk to people and try to educate them? Or do you just kind of stuff it all inside? Or how do you both deal with it?
I would say in the beginning, I thought, that's just the way it is. You have to deal with it. People, you really can't change them. People do what they want. And I mean, I found like a place in ACEs and groups like that, like, people, like other people that's not Black or a minority that are willing to talk to you and like understand your issues. I feel like that way like helped me lead to understand that you can talk to other people the other person has to be willing to talk about the issue, but you can talk to people about it and help them understand certain things and certain issues and boundaries and microaggressions.
Yeah, for me at first it was pretty isolating to, have these feelings all the time and have these things happen to me all the time at SLU. So, for a while I felt alone. I didn't feel that I could talk to anybody. Um, After a while, after going to a lot of ACEs meetings, gathering knowledge myself on the issues of race and other, different types of social issues, I developed a passion for it. I also developed a passion for talking to people about it. I became really active on social media, especially. I'd see something, especially if it's something that my classmate would post or something, that was either racially insensitive, sexist, anything like that, anything of that sort. And I would have a respectful conversation with that person to try to get them to understand, my point of view. And a lot of times those conversations didn't go well, but there are those times where there's somebody who's willing to listen or somebody who's willing to learn, and that kind of makes up for all the times that kind of goes wrong. So um, it's just great to have those conversations with people where you're able to kind of show them your side or show them your point of view.
It sounds like that.
Right. Right. And it's definitely not, you know, that's just for me personally, that's just a way that I like to have an outlet. I feel like I'm making a difference every time I talk to somebody about um, you know, the issue of race or an issue of some other social justice. That's just for me personally, that's just what I like to do. But that shouldn't be something that's expected of every person of color. It's a burden that, a lot of times falls on us because, you know, who else is going to speak for the community? But um, it really is important that, white people and other, privileged peoples take it upon themselves to educate themselves. You can't always look to the person of color to be your teacher and your mentor because you yourself, you're a grown person or you're, I guess, the same age in this situation, whatever. You yourself are a person who's responsible for your own actions, your own ideologies, and sometimes you have to um, take it by the reins and do your own research.
Mm.
So, I think one of the hardest parts for me during my 4 years at SLU High was the academics. So, yeah, being African American in a class full of Caucasian white kids, there were always those networks, that everybody else had, the group chats, the study groups, things like that. A lot of the time, I didn't really get me and my classmates of color. We didn't really get invited to those things. Sometimes I did, and that's cool. My friend would add me to a group chat. And we'd be able to study together for a hard test or something like that. But a lot of times that network isn't there, so it's hard to kind of it was hard to kind of feel that brotherhood, especially that everybody's talking, oh, that test was so hard and I'm glad that we study. Well, I didn't get to study with y'all, so things like that. But I feel like advice to that point would be, you know kind of like what Courtney was saying, it's great to kind of diversify, reach out to other people, to people who are different than you. Not only does it help them, but it'll mainly help you. Um, I think one of the main things, the main problems in the world generally is ignorance. A lot of our problems stem from just not knowing enough about another type of people, or, another race, another sexuality, etc. So I think that the more that you have these personal experiences with people that are not the same as you, the more that you diversify how you think through interaction with other people, the less ignorance that you'll have, the better that you'll be able to make decisions, not for other people, for yourself. So this is something that's important to you. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Like finding myself and like actually like trying to like live for the greater glory of God. Like if you like I was just like replaying the words of the prayer for generosity in my head. Like if you actually think about that, like the first thing, but I would just say like live by, especially like, because I really like the prayer of generosity, and it kind of like really like it's supposed to be like what SLUH is, and like we're not supposed to just do that for the 4 years we're at SLUH. Like we're supposed to do that 4 years we at SLUH and for the rest of our lives. And I think like if you live by that code, like teach me to be generous and serve as you deserve, to give and not to count the cost and things like that. Like Courtney and Ocean was saying, like that will allow you to be like allow you to diversify yourself and like open up to people and not just be like closed-minded and stubborn. And like the more you open up to people and understand people, the more loving you will be, and you'll be more knowledgeable also.